Namaskara and welcome to BIC Talks, a podcast by Bangalore International Centre, bringing you conversations that move, inform, and encourage discourse.
Hello, I'm Ahalya, and I was introduced to Korean entertainment, movies, music, the works, a couple of years ago by a very close friend, actually. And I was instantly hooked. The first thing I watched was, if I'm not wrong, the music video to Blood, Sweat and Tears by BTS. And I was just instantly hooked, primarily because of the production value of everything. And that was something that kept me going for a while because I was so amazed by the quality of the production. No matter whether the budgets are small or big, they always just pull out the stops and produce something of really good quality. And that's what really sustained me for quite a while. When I started watching things like K-dramas, engaging with more of the music that came from that industry, and also watched more film that came from South Korea, I realized that it was also easier to engage with it on a cultural level because a lot of the societal and cultural values are pretty similar. So whether or not I like them, they're still more relatable than a lot of the media that comes out from the West, because a lot of times I would find myself very lost in understanding how they respond to situations and their emotional responses, their behavioral responses. So culturally, I do feel like entertainment that comes out of there is easier to relate to, and therefore keeps me at least hooked for a longer period of time. Not to mention, they're incredible storytellers when it comes to things like thrillers, murder mysteries, just really gritty film. And so I just really love watching Korean entertainment. I think out of all of the different forms of media right now, I'm definitely the most hooked onto visual media. So that would be just film and TV shows. I was definitely really into the music for a little bit of time, but have kind of left that behind for now, just because it became a lot to keep up with. While there's a lot of misconceptions about it being like a business and an industry, it is just like every other mainstream industry in the world, but there's definitely some hidden gems, and by and large I do find that the production is just better and of higher quality, and the output is generally also of higher quality. So that's why I like Korean entertainment so much, and I'm probably going to be a fan for a long time to come. Thank you.
In recent times, with the proliferation of over-the-top entertainment platforms and increased access to content from all over the world in various languages, if there has been a clear and visible front-runner in popularity, fandoms, fan fiction, and all-round good old hysteria, it's all things K. South Korean pop music, Korean soap operas, live action and animated films, food and culture are taking over the imagination of a large swathe of urban Indian population. While the spectrum of the influence of the South Korean entertainment industry is wide, writer, podcaster and cultural critic Deepanjana Pal and author and journalist Nisha Susan give us an introduction to what is the innocuous gateway to an entire subculture, the phenomenon of the K-drama.
So actually, I should just thank everybody, because what chances of having a mid-week, like long afternoon session chatting about my favorite thing with one of my favorite people, K-dramas with Deepanjana Pal. As I was joking to everyone before this week, really, I'm only a diploma student in this business, in the K-drama fandom business, and Deepanjana is the master.
I'm the master's degree student.
Master's
yes.
degree student, or potentially a PhD student at K-drama. Which one are you? How
At
long
the
have you
rate-
been watching?
At the rate this is going, I think this is going to end up being my life's work. Like my greatest life's work are going to be the GIFs that I have made from K-dramas, basically. Books, articles, life, everything has become secondary. I actually started very, very late. I started watching K-dramas last year, early last year.
So 2020.
Yeah, 2020 lockdown, when everything was going to hell. And insomnia was truly real. And I was like, what do I do all night? Oh, look, there are 1 hour episodes of shows that go on for 16 to 20 weeks. This is perfection. When did you start, by the way?
This year. This year. I started watching this year. Now, of course, it's very hard to stop. I mean, partly the problem is that once you get in, there's such a rich and resplendent archive of
so something that I was quite amazed by when I started watching K-dramas last year, and of course I didn't start with stuff that was new. I started with shows that had come out the year before and some a little bit before that.
Okay.
But what I found fascinating was in 2020, when everybody was forced to lock down because of COVID, K-dramas stayed on the floor. They continued producing and recording. Like you'd see these updates on various, K-drama Twitter feeds and whatnot that so-and-so has tested positive. So they're quarantining and this show will be delayed by a week. Like this one episode will be delayed by a week, but the shows kept filming. So this pipeline, I mean, this is like capitalism at its best and worst because you cannot stop producing. And similarly, the consumer continues to consume. But of course, within that, what they're giving us are these incredibly powerful stories that are not just popcorn, But
not that I have any objection to popcorn, but I guess the thing about them making shows right through the pandemic when the rest of us were trying to figure out, where to get like water and oil and things like that is, of course, capitalism, but also that Korea particularly had a grip on how to, control the pandemic, right? So I was reading, I think this translator, the Korean translator, Anton He, he was talking this week on Twitter about how he's planning to take a trip to England and his friends are like, you're not ready because they didn't do the pandemic the way the rest of the world did the pandemic. They've just been mostly functioning, right? So his friends were telling him, Anton, you're not ready to like step out of the Korean bubble. Okay. And
for sure.
Like, it's really a bubble, right?
It definitely is, but it was also just, it's a certain kind of Korean work ethic also, I think, and a realization that they have created a monster in the audience that must continually be fed, like what is the world going to do if we don't have the next episode? Damn it all!
I know. And this girl that I follow on like every forum possible on every platform, okay, because she watches like the one period drama that I've gotten into. And this, like, I haven't watched the period drama, the Sejok so far, and I've gotten into one now called The Red Sleeve Cuff. And she's writing about it, blogging about it, giving like historical background, blah, blah, blah. But she's also tweeting about it. And her Twitter identity is like, it's Wednesday. Today, the next episode will come. It's Thursday. Now I have to wait 1 week for the next episode. This is her like life cycle. She's like a fruit fly who's like, born every week for the next episode of Red Sleeve Cuff. It's quite like, I mean, I get it. I feel like
this is I think how I was with Run On and Vincenzo both, which were just, I mean, I was watching both of these while they were airing, and I have never felt so disappointed at myself for not being late because, then you can binge. Otherwise, you're waiting every week for that 1 hour and suddenly 1 hour is not enough. But, so here's the other thing. I think the other reason why K-dramas feel so addictive is because of the range of genres within it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's one for every moment, right?
Truly. It's like, it's not just that there are different genres like the saguks or the historicals. There's the makjang with the completely outrageous, crazy stuff
completely
happening.
Familiar mother-in-law drama.
I mean, Khoon Bhari Maang was makjang. Okay. Yeah. Before anyone did makjang, we did makjang. So let it be known, as it were. But yeah, so the Magjang, the action ones, the trendy, which is these urban run-on type dramas. There are so many genres, but then they do these cross genres. So there'll be the show that has a little bit of romance and a little bit of politics and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's just, what do you feel like? Like, what kind of
No,
story?
it's really something. It's like going to one of those Korean banquets, like, and they put the banchan in front of you, and then you're like, oh, there's a meal after this, and there's the sour thing and the spicy thing and the sweet thing, and then it's just, I mean, yeah, the buffet is just incredible. And someone was just saying, that, oh, the production values are very good. But honestly, I have reached a stage of not caring whether the production values are anything. Like, I am now watched like things which are 15 years old and look really, really tacky because, the writing is so good. Like, I watched, I think, one of the first Yoonbin shows, like the oldest ones. I think I watched this thing called My Name is Kim Samsoon, and it looks beyond bad. Okay, but I mean, if you thought Secret Garden looked bad, I mean, he looked great, she looked great, but the show looked bad, then you should watch Kim Samsoon and just like be horrified by production values. But the writing is so marvelous. It's so meaningful. The dialogue is so meaningful that you really remember things, and you don't really notice props and lighting in.
Yeah, I felt the same way about Coffee Prince,
Right?
which is so bad as production values go, right? Like, the wall is so evidently made of cardboard. It's amazing that Gong Yu can lean on it without collapsing. It says more about his core strength.
Right.
Of course, I'm focused on Gong Yu's core strength in a way that I perhaps am not as invested in many other people's core strength. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a really cheap production from, I mean, it may not have been for those times, but certainly in comparison to what we get now. But the story is so well told. And when you think about the fact that it's 22, 25 years old, and here was a story that actually tackled things like, gender fluidity, about homophobia, about just, attraction, uncomfortable attraction. And how does it make a difference if somebody identifies as a man or identifies as a woman? Just this gendered understanding of what is going to be considered romantic and what is considered heroic. It just, even though they don't look anywhere close to as glossy and gleaming as the ones do now, I stayed with Coffee Prince literally just for the story. And I think for me personally, one of the reasons why I think I've fallen so deeply in love with K-dramas is because they feel like novels to me, like well-written novels.
It's you have that tripped feeling, with individual episodes and the whole arc of it. You have the full, like, even when the most conventional romantic arc ends, it ends with all kinds of other things, layers of other things. Like, Coffee Prince has this Shakespearean, gender switching thing going on. But the second lead, the second female lead and the second male lead in the same show are also doing their own thing of her trying to decide whether she wants to be in a relationship with one man. She then deciding that she want to be married at all, then deciding, is like having children like a thing at all, or can we be a couple without it? I mean, so there's always like a little more. Like, this is like really like going to, to use another restaurant experience, like going to a Gujarati restaurant and then somebody saying, just have one more puri, and that fully satisfying feeling. I can't remember too many shows that I watched and I felt like, oh, this is just crap and I can't watch it. There are very few. I mean, you and I particular dislike of a particular actress who we will not mention. Okay,
not right now. We'll get
not
there.
right now. Who is like the papad left behind? So apart from her shows, mostly at least I end up watching pretty much everything and liking it a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have abandoned shows. It's not like I haven't, but I think it's crazy in terms of, if you just look at the quality of the writing, it's crazy what
No, the bar
proportion
is
is
very
good.
high. The bar is very high.
It's
Yeah.
extremely high. And it's also the other thing that the other reason why I'm sort of, amazed by the quality of writing is that minor characters get so much attention, from the writer as well as the director, as well as the production, like, for instance, in Coffee Prince again, one of the minor characters is a guy played by Kim Jae-wook, who has a slightly mysterious side. He's also a little more androgynous than the others. Kim Jae-wook would later be a leading hero. He was the hero in Her Private Life.
Yeah.
But it's a tiny role that he has in Coffee Prince, but he plays it so well, and there's so much attention given to it.
And his whole romantic arc of being in love with a woman who's run away from an abusive husband, that he's trying to find her, but she doesn't want to be found. I mean, it's like all kinds of things going on there. It's just beautiful.
And this is a minor character. What this minor character gets in most storytelling pop culture traditions, whether we're looking at Bollywood or Hollywood or one of the European stuff, this would be the central plot. Like, it's got enough to be a central plot, but it's given as much attention as a central plot while still being minor in this show. And I think one of the reasons why K-drama is able to do that is because it is actually telling you multiple stories. Like, it's 16 to 20 hours of storytelling, which means you really do have enough time to explore anything and everything you want to.
But, you could give this 16 hours to, other people, and they will do nothing with it. Like, so I tried to watch some K-drama, which is funded by American money recently. And, partly because I haven't watched anything American for a while, for the first time in my adult life, I haven't watched anything American in a while. And then there was that shock. But it was also like, my standards are, so much higher now. So then I started watching it and I was like, what's going on here? I know nothing about this woman. Like, 2 hours into this show, all I know is that she has an angry expression and she wants to take revenge on her father's killer. That's all I know. Like, what does she do? Does she eat? Does she drink? Does she sleep at night? Why does she have only one cycle in her flat? It's just like baffling, While, like, say in Kim Samsoon, the cycle in the flat has a full story. She dropped it off. He wants to take it back. She doesn't want to bring it back because she doesn't want to see him, everything. But just the rukha sukhaness of, American pop culture, the characterization, the dryness of it, and the sort of stinginess of it has never really hit me so hard as it has now, right? So,
and it's so fascinating when you keep in mind that obviously this K-drama tradition, it has its roots in American sitcom. The whole idea of taking a story and spreading it out over years, essentially, and instead of making it years, making it months. That's drawn from the sitcom. And this is something that Korean entertainment, both with pop music as well as, I think to a certain extent, films as well, but definitely with the TV stuff, Korean entertainment has done this in a really interesting way, where they've taken ideas and techniques from Western storytelling, and particularly American storytelling and cultural traditions. American because Korea and America have a very intimate political connection, and having been a base, Korea having been an American military base for way, way too long. But anyway, point is that they are exposed to a lot of American culture, and that taking those cultural artifacts and Koreanizing them,
but making it like so much better, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I think you and I were discussing how, like, I think Romance is a Bonus Book is an official adaptation of Younger, the TV show Younger. And the plot of Younger is that a woman at 40, after a divorce, comes back to publishing, which is the career that she abandoned in her early 20s. And she's unable to get in. And then, by a series of events, she decides to pretend to be in her 20s, So she has a makeover. and she goes back to work as a 20-something assistant, and she has a 20-something boyfriend. So spoilers, big spoilers. Okay, the big reveal in the early seasons is that her, boyfriend finds out, he's shocked, upset, blah blah blah. But amazing, he decides to stay with this woman who is much older and everything. So that's the big thing. Gasp, exactly. But so now Korea, what do they do? First of all, she comes back to work. She does not pretend that she is any younger.
This is to me particularly ironic, given everyone looks 12 in a K-drama.
Everyone looks 12. She looks
even
like
if they're
13
50.
and a half. She looks 13 and a half. So she's like this mature 13 and a half. Okay, so the 13 and a half is back at work. She's doing her thing. So we have the plot. We have the younger boyfriend or the love interest who has always liked her and is just waiting to, get in her life. Then the rival has to be set up for drama. The rival is even younger, right? it is not an age-appropriate older man as in, younger.
Yeah.
The rival is even younger. I think the first love interest is like, 6 years younger, and the other one is like 10 years younger. So Korea is like, hold my soju, let me just like show you how it should be done, right? So it's really something, man. I mean, I just feel like, a little bit of like, why can't we have this? Do you feel like that?
All the time. And I know why we can't, because we don't have that many women writers. This is a genre this whole K-drama genre was not created, but was targeted at women audiences, and therefore they brought in women writers. This is initially, I'm talking about the 80s right now. And they were targeting women as the audience that they want to bring in, because this was supposed to be vehicles for advertisements, which it continues to be even now, which is why you'll find like Copico ads and like all sorts of random nonsense being sold to you.
In that show, Let's Be Melodramatic, which is a show about people who work in what they call mellows. One person's job is to place these products in unlikely, like to us, unlike. So like somebody is dying and there's like some
fried chicken
like lying next.
Yeah. So she's a brand representative for fried chicken, and I kept thinking of her when I was watching Crash Landing on You, because I watched Crash Landing on You after I saw Be Mellow.
I see where this is going.
And there are all these scenes with fried chicken. And I was like, hey!
I know you. I know how you got here, you little chicken.
This is why there are 5 different kinds of fried chicken over there. You think we don't know? We have watched To Be Mellow. But yeah, so this was supposed to sell products to women who are watching this at home. And of course, you can't just sell products. Then it's a network, like a shopping network thing. How do we do this? We need stories. We need stories for women. Therefore, we will bring in women writers. That's how it started, from where it has evolved to a point where obviously not just women watch it, but also the genres have developed into, everything from sci-fi to fusion saguks, which are like, historicals with a modern twist. But women writing clever stories is the foundation of this storytelling industry, which is not anywhere. I mean, first of all, intelligent stories is something that I don't think we've seen in popular entertainment in India for God knows how long. At the time, every now and then there'll be like a half an intelligent idea and we fall off our ankles with excitement at that. More to the point, we've perfected the art of taking a really good idea and turning it dumb. Whereas what K-drama has done is the exact opposite. They will take dumb things and turn them into intelligent stuff. So it's also just it's an effortless nerdiness, which just makes this such a wonderful genre for people who are curious. Like you'll be watching a show about a hotel for ghosts and find somewhere along the way extremely pertinent references to Martin Heidegger. I mean,
I didn't know that Hotel de Luna had Heidegger floating around.
Yes. And the moment when it happened, I actually had to stop, take a deep breath, take a drink of water, and be like, Heidegger just made a cameo appearance in a K drama.
I have to admit though that though in general I'm inclined to reward nerdy referencing like all the time. I think for me, what is really appealing about K drama is the high emotional stakes in like all kinds of things. Like I think it's the like you end up caring about everything. You end up caring and you feel like the show wants you to care. The show is not cynical. There is no cynicism about people's feelings, right? So like love is taken seriously, friendship is taken seriously, relationships between family members is taken seriously. I just feel like there's no, like if there is a picking between cleverness and a sort of simple stakes in emotional truth, they seem to pick the emotional truth over the cleverness, right? So sometimes the formats are familiar or simple or not surprising, and it reinstates the power of happy endings and reinstates the power of sad endings also, and reinstates the power of the kiss, all kinds of things, right? And it takes it seriously at a level that I just feel so like I don't feel like I'm being taken for a ride. It's a very weird thing to say, but often when you're watching big entertainment vehicles, you feel like literally it's a vehicle. I'm being taken from one place to another place and being dumped on my ass. You don't feel that with K dramas a lot.
I think for people like you and me, who are coming to K dramas relatively late, having seen other things and having made some sort of an effort to be aware of what's being done in indie-ish alternative entertainment, I think for us it's particularly striking because being ironic, being cynical has been extremely prized and the central thread of all entertainment and particularly storytelling, particularly after the Second World War. Not being naive is very, it's an integral part of being intelligent and functioning socially in Western entertainment. I mean,
you're not supposed to say sincerity of purpose without laughing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You have to say it while laughing, right?
Yeah. So, but when you come from that tradition and then you see two people who are genuinely just moved by a simple thing like, I don't know, touching their hands, it feels absurd initially.
I'm going to have like a full museum exhibit of screenshots about hand holding. I think I'm like at 30 or 40 screenshots of hand holding. May I hold your hand? May I hold your hand? May I hold your hand? I'm holding your hand. Oh my God, we are holding hands. Okay.
It seems almost absurd, but at the same time, it's also, I don't know, at one level, it's also so responsive to both the South Korean reference of, society does not ask for women's consent. It's not just South Korea, it's everywhere, but particularly South Korea has a massively, gender, let me rephrase that. So,
like everywhere they have douchey men, is what you mean?
Yes, they do have douchey men, but they also have systemic problems. Like, the way surveillance has been used to violate women's privacy, the lack of redressal, things that we are quite familiar with in India as well. Just, the way these things play out is somewhat different. The devices and the means by which these, strategies are carried out are somewhat different in South Korea. But within that context, for someone to say, may I hold your hand, and not just assume that you can hold that person's hand. And to see in K-dramas, this tradition changing, like this whole thing of forcing a kiss was a very staple part of K-drama romance in the older stuff, like, grabbing her and the guy planting an extraordinarily insipid kiss, which nevertheless, we are noting that she did not consent to it straight away. It may be insipid, but it's still non-consensual. From there, you come here where we are today, where there is active conversation, actively given consent, women asking for men's consent and then kissing them. Again, an extraordinarily delicate, barely touching thing. And meanwhile, my pulse is fluttering like they have had sex in front of me. I mean, that kind of charge.
There's a moment in Run On where she grabs his wrist and marches off. You know, it's such a big gender flip, because all the older shows have this wrist grab and marching off hero, and this, she saves him from his family by grabbing his wrist and marching off. And I was like, oh, it's so cute. In a movie theater.
You know, that film, that show is so steeped in its love for cinema,
it's
right?
Catnip for you, Deepanjana.
It was just, and you know, this whole thing of watching till the end of the credits and the whole film festival feel. I'm watching this while basically being like, oh my God, there are no film festivals this year. Where will I sit and watch strange Romanian films?
And there's so much making fun of Aaron Sorkin. It is like
really
satisfying. Just like,
I loved that.
Hey, no horror movie like Aaron Sorkin.
That's another thing that I really love about K-dramas, right? Because they are so unabashed about not being tethered to reality, that it's interesting what they privilege. Like in Run On, the main heroine is a subtitler, a translator of subtitles, to be absolutely precise. In her private life, the heroine is a curator, a gallery curator. You have publishers, editors at publishing firms, like the kind of professions that are held up. Nobody thinks these are grand professions in real life. Like anybody who's in anything remotely cultural is well aware that these are very tiny roles, and they glamorize them.
And weightlifters and bodyguards and stunt women and there are a lot of shows with security guards and sports people. And it's quite something.
But in Run On, that was something that I found quite interesting, because generally sports is, and this is in other K-dramas as well, this is where I think Run On was very different. Usually sports is about excellence. So even if you start off as an underdog character, at some point you will win the awards and become amazing and whatnot. Run On started with a guy who is second. He only wins second. Like you have never seen him win the gold medal. And then he quits this profession. It's like, it's the antithesis of everything that's supposed to happen.
Quite a remarkable show.
It also,
I mean, it's also sort of like startling for me that the lead is a teen pop star turned actor, and he's so good. And this whole like class of what they call idol dramas, which are pop stars turned stars, and a shocking number of them. I think you were saying about a bunch of people who came out of the 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. teen groups, that they're all terrible musicians and great actors.
Yeah, so basically I started trying to find 2 p.m. songs after starting to watch Vincenzo. Oktekyon, who's if you haven't watched Vincenzo, I shouldn't tell you what he is in it, but he's in the show and he's very good in it. And he's also extremely cute, beautiful hands. Anyway, so primarily because I'm a fan of beautiful hands, I started looking for 2 p.m. music, and it is unlistenable. Like, it is awful. However, he and one of his bandmates who's in the red sleeve, he's the hero in the red sleeve, they're really good actors.
No, he's shockingly good, the lead of Red Sleeve. And also, I mean, the period dramas are conducted in some other dialect, and like I'm told that if you don't get the dialect and the demeanor right, all the ajumas will go up in, flames and like storm the studio and burn it down if you don't get it right.
And this is not even a joke, because audience responses are a serious thing in K-drama. Like, shows get taken off air. I'm forgetting the name of the show now, but it was, sorry, there was a show last year or early this year that was taken off air after maybe like 1 or 2 episodes, and it was a really expensive sagok, which involved, like Kingdom, zombies or some sort of supernatural thing. It got taken off because they'd shown a spread in which there was Chinese food and there shouldn't have been Chinese food.
Oh my God. Continuity error. Discontinued the show.
Historical continuity. Like in 11th century, this wouldn't have
How
been
dare
there.
you?
I mean, neither would zombies. Let's
like,
be
eat
fair.
the damn momo, you.
No, also mandus, not momos. But yeah, like they did actually have to take the show off air. Actors had to issue apologies for having taken part in a show and not research to know that they are taking part in something that's inauthentic.
Right.
A zombie show, mind you.
Hi, so I like listening to K-pop because I think it's a lot more than just music, and it's a lot more than just a genre. It's ideas, concepts, costumes, dance and rhythm, and so much more coming together to create this very beautiful piece of art. And I also think that the kind of flavor, the kind of melodies that you get from Korean artists is not like anything else, and you don't hear that anywhere else. And that's why I love it so much.
The thing I wanted to ask you is this. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff which is like totally new and like random, like you're entering a whole new culture by watching a show. But was there something that particularly startled you about K-drama, which seemed like, wait, I didn't know this thing was a real thing, or I didn't know this thing existed? Or
Honestly,
did it all seem like, okay, I can get into this right away?
Honestly, it all felt very unfamiliar to me. Like nothing felt familiar. Literally nothing. I mean, beginning with why is it such a big deal for the heroine to just lightly clasp the hero's shirt while kissing? She's not going to put her arms around him. She'll just lightly clasp his shirt.
What about all the family drinking?
Also, if you're drinking soju, it's one thing. If you're drinking makgeolli, it's something else. When you're drinking, you're not going to face each other and lift the glass.
You're turning sideways to drink.
Yeah.
No, even just the fact of like
even this little thing of
living room drinking, like the entire family is like getting together and drinking, in a normal way, right? Which just came completely unfamiliar. I've never seen it before, right?
There's not one cliche of K-drama that I recognized from our cultures, right? Like from what I know of Indian cultures, nothing.
Right. So even something like, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law drama, there is mother-in-law, daughter-in-law drama in the older shows like plenty, but they don't, like, it's not slapping. Okay, there is also slapping, but there's a lot of pulling of hair. There is a lot of throwing water. Throwing water seemed to be like a whole new thing. Okay, I didn't know it existed. I was like, why is everybody throwing water?
Either they throw water at the other person or on themselves.
On themselves, I haven't seen except when you told me about on themselves. What was the on themselves thing?
So this is in Wonder Woman, which is a really fun show. It's like Sita or Geeta in K-drama, basically. In it, and this is a minor sort of subplot, there's a television news host who is having an affair with a married man. The married man at one point turns around and says, well, enough is enough, we're breaking up. So they're having this conversation in a restaurant. She has ordered a freshly squeezed orange juice, which she then proceeds to tip on herself.
No sense.
Because, and she says, I'm doing this because I was such an idiot. I should have known better. than to get into a relationship with you. Ergo, I have come wearing a white shirt, and on this, I will dump a glass on my hair and on my white shirt. I will dump a glass of freshly squeezed, pulpy orange juice.
Because there's no one
Thank
else
you
to
very
throw
much.
it on me, so I will do it for myself.
Yeah. Otherwise, but
Which
there
brings
was
me to an important and weird point. So even in the old shows, there's like internet, there's cell phones. Like in My Name is Kim Samsoon, there is internet banking. Okay, this is like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. But nobody has a washing machine.
no. In Run-On, they have a washing machine.
Mostly they
How
seem to put the
sweetly
clothes in the
Imshivan
bucket. No, they put the clothes in the bucket and they go pat 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 with their feet. It's a thing. And in fact, in the mahjangs, there is a lot of like mother-in-law telling daughter-in-law, go and like wash all the quilts. And then she puts it in the bathtub and then she's going pat 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 with her feet. So I'm like, why don't you have a washing machine? I don't understand. Has Samsung not come to Korea? Like, what's going on?
I think that actually might be the thing. There was probably the scene written saying that should we get an ad from, or what do they call it? A BP, a brand promotion. Me being me, I was obviously like, what is the full form of this abbreviation? Because surely I will have to write an article on this at some point. Anyway, so they probably wanted a BP from
First rank.
From a Samsung or something to that effect, which didn't happen. Therefore, she is now washing quilts in her bathtub, works one time round, and then it's become a trope.
You're saying that Koreans don't wash their clothes with their feet, you're saying? I mean, we'll have to inquire.
I mean, I have no idea, but from what I have seen of South Korean
talking like Margaret Mead in like Samoa, but anyway.
From what I've seen of Seoul apartments, I don't think they have the space to do this.
It's just too bizarre.
But one of my favorite mother-in-law, daughter-in-law dynamics in K-dramas that I've seen of late is in Mine, which is an amazing K-drama. I had very, very limited expectations from it. I just thought, it's three women in the lead characters. There are no male leads in that sense, which was why I started watching it. And one of the leads has cheekbones that I just basically want to cling on to for the rest of my life. But yeah, it just ended up being more and more incredibly well written. And it has one of my favorite mother-in-laws, and she is insane, right? She has a pet peacock. Thank you very much.
Of course.
She wails from time to time. She slaps, throws things, pulls hair, all the mahjong stuff. And she is very much like a satire on that whole thing. But it's also just, it's such a well-written corporate intrigue show. It's also got one of the few, I'm trying to think how many I've seen that actually have a proper queer subplot. This is one of the ones that it's not queer baiting. It is a genuine subplot that is with queer characters, and the homophobia that is that makes it impossible for people to function in a way that feels fair and free. So, and then there's a peacock, and there's this woman screaming.
I think there's a really cute mother-in-law moment in Oh My Ghost. Yeah. In Oh My Ghost, the lead's mother is someone who had him when she was super young, and then basically sort of said, I need to go back to college. So she went to college, she became a professor, all of that. So now in her, I guess, 40s, she has decided that she must focus on her son, and the son is like, please, like, stay out of my way, right? So at some point she is threatening the possible future daughter-in-law by saying, I'm going to be a difficult mother-in-law. Also, I'm very immature. Do you want a young and immature mother-in-law? Okay. This girl is like, I don't know what's happening. Leave me alone.
They do write these really good older women characters as well. I mean, one of the most famous, I think, has to be of late, has to be the grandmother, the Halbuni in Startup. She's an amazing actress as well. She plays one of the characters, one of the main characters' mothers in Hospital Playlist. But I saw her first in Startup. But these older men and women who have basically been cast aside more often than not because young people are doing young things. They're just really just so well written. It's also a secondary problem that now if I see an older woman who looks even vaguely Asian, she is Halboni in my head, not grandmother, not Bida, not like the host of Indian languages. I know I have forgotten. They are Halboni, they are Ajumas, and they are Ajushis. Like,
I think I was telling you this story about my friend who was like waiting for an episode to upload, and then we both discussed it. And I said, "What do you think?" And then we were complaining because it's a very maths nerd show, Melancholia. And then she was laughing at it a lot. She's an actual like in real life math nerd, and so she was laughing at it. And then after having laughed at it quite a bit, she said, "But maybe I've gotten some of the stuff wrong because the subtitles aren't up yet." So I was like, "Gayatri, did you watch the show without subtitles?" She was like, "Huh." And I said, "And how much did you understand?" She said, "Chombo tha." I said, "Shut up." Okay. And so then we did this Korean language beginners quiz. And indeed, while I got 75%, she got Chombo tha. She got 100%. It's just ridiculous human being. Okay. It's just, I keep wondering when the Koreans decided that we were going to have the soft power conquest of the world, a la the Americans. Did they ever think that they were going to be so damn successful,
I mean, I don't know if they strategically plotted it out that
that's
way,
fully
but
plotted, right? I mean, it's there is like whole book, multiple
the
books.
Hallyu. Yeah.
About how they plotted it, like how they did it.
Yeah. The rise of
sneaking it into Hong Kong first, and Singapore and all of those things.
No, I mean, there's a certain amount of plotting for sure, but I don't think any one of them could have anticipated that there would be a time when you and I would be like Annyeonghaseyo and it would make sense, like it's incredible to me. And it's like I was telling you that day that, for a lot of us who don't speak Hindi at home, we learned Hindi kind of like this.
Right. This is the same way that I learned Hindi. Like I learned Hindi from Doordarshan. So, why should it be surprising that I now know like roughly 100 Korean words?
That you're starting to pick up Korean, because this is how we picked up Hindi as well. It was a strange language. People did things that felt attractive, and therefore we made sense of them.
Right. Glamorous, good-looking men will take us places where we had no plans of going.
Not to mention gorgeous women, because I think that was at the height of Bollywood. This was also its greatest charm. Great women actors and playing good characters, meaty characters. We had that in a big way in Bollywood for a very long time. And it's kind of interesting, right? Because K-drama, once again, lots of women writers, but more male directors. Like there aren't that many women directors in there. So the writing has you'll have like women-centric dramas, most of them. The central characters are almost always women, but the man is very important. You see a man from a female gaze.
Right. But the man is important for other reasons, right? I mean, for any like, he is the object, right?
He's the object. I mean, he's not the reason that a heroine becomes amazing, unlike what we've devolved into in our storytelling traditions here, where even if you have a really good female role, 9 times out of 10, she exists to help the male lead achieve a certain evolution. The men don't operate in that sense in K-dramas. Like even if they are the love interest or the brother or whatever, however important they might be, they have their own separate arc. And really, like they are absolutely the trophy wives and eye candy.
No.
They may have a story and all that.
My second museum exhibit is going to be of screenshots of men in showers, right? I mean, how they managed to squeeze a man into a shower in every show
for no reason.
Amazing. And I don't think it was Heidegger, but there is one show that I was watching where he was in the shower, and then he was having some deep thoughts about some philosopher. And I was like, are you shut up? Okay, just like shut up. What's going on? Why are you like soaping your chest while thinking about this philosopher?
You were saying about cliches and tropes that felt familiar or unfamiliar. This was the first one that I noticed, that for no reason whatsoever, just so that we can get an eyeful of this torso, there will be a shower scene, right?
I want to tell you, in the latest episode of Red Sleeve Cuff, those showers have not been invented.
In Joseph,
The crown
no
prince
shower.
has been stuffed into a tub, okay, with rose petals and whatever. And though there is like so many degrees of separation between him and the heroine in terms of social ranking, somehow the plot has made her arrive there just as his shirt is off, okay. And
There
then
we go.
and the camera is like doing all this loving dance up and down, right? So I watched it, I laughed a lot, it was beautiful. Then I went online to see who else is watching, and there's like, me and 7,500 Korean girls saying, oh, it's not for nothing that Juno went on this diet. Opa, it's looking so beautiful. Your abs, Opa.
See, I mean, they know what the audience wants. What I love is that there will be the, gratuitous shower scene, but there will also be just great plot. It's such a refreshing reminder that you can be fluffy and clever. It's something that I feel like we really have lost out on in particularly Western entertainment and also Indian entertainment. We've sort of equated popular commercial entertainment with stupidity, essentially.
Yeah. It is sort of taking your audience for granted, deciding to be slightly less than kind to them. So I wanted to ask you, I mean, this is a slightly nerd question. Do you feel like Hospital Playlist had a plot?
No.
It doesn't, right? It's like a whole new genre of storytelling. I just felt like I was in some like very cute docudrama where we were just following around people.
Yeah, so Lee Woo Jung, who wrote Hospital Playlist both seasons, is also the one who wrote Reply,
which also
the whole Reply
has, like,
series.
No plot. None.
Exactly. So this is Lee Woo Jung's thing. She writes life. She writes ensemble dramas where nothing happens.
I get it, where nothing happens. In Reply, nothing happened. It's great. In Hospital, which I'm addicted to, I love it. I've watched it 3 times. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, partly because I love it and partly because I'm obsessed with a certain actor. Okay. So then I just kept, each time I watched it, I thought it more. I was like, what's going on? Nothing is going on. It's incredible. Nothing happens.
What I find incredible, and this I do think the actors have a lot to do with, it's literally just life unfolding for you. Like, you will sit there with your dinner and they will sit there with their dinner.
Like in each episode I was watching, I was like, oh, when will the big dinner happen? So then I would like time my meal so that I don't have to watch. Okay, so this was one of my early problems with Korean shows, because one of the first things I watched was Reply and the Reply series. And I actually started timing how long the show would run without food. It was usually 30 to 45 seconds. Every 45 seconds, there was new food.
Yeah. The food and there are some, even in a show like Stranger, which is a murder investigation, one of the best crime shows that I have seen across languages and cultures. Even in a show like that, there's all of that time that they spend in those what do they call them, the pojang machas, the street stalls with one like tteokbokki and a glass of soju, or they're going somewhere and they're having some stew of some sort. A kimchi stew will pop up somewhere. No matter what the show, if there's one thing that all genres of K-drama will have, it's amazing food. Even, in fact, there was a show called Healer, right? Healer is like, there's this what's his name now? See, now I've forgotten all the Hollywood references. Jason Brown was
Jason
Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Born. There we go. So
how we've reached this stage.
I know. I've forgotten what the Bourne identity was. But anyway, point is that Healer has this guy who is like a Jason Bourne kind of character, mysterious, can fight this, that, and the other. His handler lives in like what feels like a dungeon.
I
And
love her, that woman, the one who plays the handler.
incredible. The whole time she's making gimbaps. The whole time. Any time you turn to her, the woman is making gimbaps. I'm like, how much are you eating, madam? And because of you, I now want another gimbap, damn it. I'm buying nori sheets by the meter from my, local store because this woman just keeps rolling gimbaps every second. Then I was watching Mr. Queen, which was super fun. Time travel, another genre, another sort of favored genre within K dramas. Mr. Queen has a modern day chef who, by miraculous means, ends up in the body of a Joseon era princess. And the only thing he can do is cook. So he deals with all the court intrigue and everything by cooking stuff and basically changing the direction of Korean cuisine.
Culinary history.
And the food is so lovingly and beautifully shot that I was just like, I can't watch this without eating. And I can't just have dal chawal with this because it hurts to see these exquisite creations, and then you put a bit of gloop on your plate. So there I am suddenly doing prawn ceviches myself while they are braising things for 9 hours or whatnot. Oh my God, the food is, and also the people who are acting in these shows, they're basically living on chicken breasts and broccoli, because those figures, like 5 almonds and 1 breast in a week, is basically what they're getting. But look at the food that shows up.
So I don't understand how they look like they. Sorry, I'm just going to ask this very pornographic question. They look like they're swallowing, not spitting. But okay, but I mean, do they do it in one take? I cannot understand how much food they eat.
I don't think they're swallowing. I think they're spitting.
That is your pornographic answer. Okay.
Have
you seen
a girl's got to know for
show
research.
called Let's Eat?
No, I haven't.
So in this, they decide to do away with plot altogether, and like a thin veneer of a plot. And instead, every episode has one very large meal. So it's actually run into 2 seasons. So it has a character who's obsessed with food. He has some very mainstream job. He's an insurance salesman. But in each episode, he goes and has some large meal. And that's
fantastic.
That's it.
Fantastic. This is like Hotel de Luna. One subplot was basically the lead heroine has a thing for this one particular celebrity chef. So she goes around to every restaurant, and he has a food show. So she goes around to every restaurant that he's been to eat the dish that he's recommended. It has nothing to do with the rest of the show.
That's so good. No, but so if you take that subplot and you make 2 seasons of a show, that's
you have Let's Eat.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, it's, here's the thing, right? Like, again, actually, it's not true that this little subplot has nothing to do with anything. Ultimately, Hotel de Luna does tie it up quite interestingly.
Okay.
As in, not the eating, but why she's going around to these different places. But again, like, it would have been, even if they hadn't, it would have been a really charming quirk to a character, And this kind of imagining characters who are whole, who have a little bit of silliness, who have deep-seated desires, who don't want to...
Exactly. This was my problem with that show that I was watching, My Name Is, which very, like, I was like, I don't know what this girl is about. Like, I don't know anything. I don't care. I don't care whether she gets revenge on her father's killer or not, because how can you care? The show hasn't told you anything. And I think the deftness with which multiple, rasas are brought together even in one scene is just incredible. In Hospital Playlist, there is a scene in which this young intern, like there are a pair of young interns, a boy and a girl, right? They come in and they're grilled a little bit by the senior staff, just as a sort of, when they see them, hi, so you're the new guys, so why did you become doctors? So she says, when I was young, my mother was very ill, and then I met this young doctor and she was very nice to us, and that's why I wanted to become a doctor. Then they turn to the young boy with her and I ask him, And then he says, when I was very young, my mother was very sick and the young doctor was nice to us. So they were like, you cannot copy this answer, you fool. They laugh at him and they throw him out, and they think it's like a joke. Later, when his resident asks, when the resident asks both these kids again, what was that story? So the girl repeats the story, and while she's repeating the story in detail and crying while she remembers her mother dying, the boy alongside is also crying. And so then the resident asks again, why are you crying? I mean, obviously that was not your story. So then he says, it is, I am her twin. Okay. And then, you've just finished crying about this really like tragic loss of, and then you're like hysterical because, it's his twin. It's a PJ in the middle of tragedy.
Yeah, no, they do this so well. And the thing is, ultimately, these are obviously fictions that are creating idealized worlds. And of course, they reflect what I guess these writers and directors hope would be the best version of this life. Like with Hospital Playlist, life in a hospital is hardly as much fun. And being a doctor and being sleep deprived and running on fumes the way they do is not likely to give you that glowing complexion to begin with. But, here's a world where you don't get ragged, where ragging is just this, someone saying that don't copy that answer. And doctors will go on social media so that a patient who has no family has visitors coming in from around the country.
Yeah, I remember that episode. Yeah.
It's so heartfelt. And that's, I think, what has made K-drama such a rage in the last couple of years, because we've known in these last 2 years the more darkness than we've known in a long time.
Yeah.
And these shows give you hope. They give you hope, not that that's what you'll become, but that if you can imagine it, then something like that may happen. It begins with imagining it, at least.
Medha, I'm 23 years old and I am very into K-pop and K-dramas and K-entertainment in general. I got into K-pop through my friends. I had friends who were into BTS and they introduced me to the group, and I got into BTS. The whole BTS phase, and then I sort of started exploring other groups and other forms of Korean entertainment. It's been 3 or 4 years, and 80% of the shows I watch are Korean. 99% of the music I listen to is K-pop, and I love it. I love K-pop because it's fun and it's intelligent. And there's so much to it. It's not just music. You get so much along with the music. It's a whole package. So you get music, you get dance, you get really beautiful looking people, you get cool videos, you get a really cool trailer, you get a really cool music video, and it's a whole package. There's so much to look forward to. There's so much innovation in K-pop. All the songs don't really sound the same. NCT is one of my favorite bands now, and they put out this album called Sticker, and it had some really, really wacky songs and weird sounds. It was so experimental and it was interesting. In the beginning, you listen to it and you don't like much, but as you keep listening, you realize that there's something to it. They think of the audience when they create the package of a K-pop band. They try to give you a whole experience. It's not just one thing. It's not just you listen to the music and you give them money. They care about the audience. You can tell. And K-dramas I really like because, it's the same thing. They're fun, they're funny, they're intelligent. They don't treat the audience like a bunch of sheep, like dumb people. It's intelligent. They make you think. Even when they're being really, even when you're watching a romantic drama, even when it's supposed to be not very deep, I feel like even then there's so much there's so much three-dimensionality. I feel like you can tell that the characters are developed. Obviously, this is not every K-drama, because there are bad K-dramas and there are good K-dramas, but the good ones are just really good. The characters are really well developed, and the writing is really honest, and I love that. And obviously, I like the fact that there are hot K-drama actors and that, all of that also. And even bad K-dramas, there's something about it. There's this interesting melodrama to bad K-dramas that I really love. There's this interesting quality that makes it fun. It's like all of these guilty pleasure serials. It's like that. So even bad K-dramas I love watching. I think the other thing is also the language itself. I really love the sound of Korean. It's a really sweet language, and it's sort of, I feel like as someone who speaks a lot of South Indian languages, Korean comes really easy to me. It feels easy to understand. The structure of each sentence makes sense to me, because I can liken it to something in a South Indian language like Kannada. The grammar of Korean makes sense. The logic with which sentences are built, all of that makes sense. So the language itself makes sense to me, and something about the language pulls me in.
So can I ask you like two dangerous questions, one less dangerous than the other? If someone had to start watching K-dramas, like what would be like a good show to start watching?
I mean, I don't think it's possible to come up with one that everybody would love. But I think
like
if
someone recommended Reply to me.
I don't think that's a good one to start.
I loved it.
No. I think it's a great show, but I don't think
it's a show for everyone.
Yeah, I don't think it's an opening show in that sense. Because
so what would be an opening show?
I think Stranger is a really good show to start with. Because it's such a tight. I mean, crime has a way of making.
It's familiar in that sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's also wildly contrary to how we understand crime shows to function. Because it's like
I was watching Signal with my husband, who was like, "Oh, nice show. And he was like, "What? Time travel?"
Exactly.
I was like, if I had told you there was time travel, you wouldn't have watched it. Okay, so then.
But by the time it comes in, now you're like, you can't give up. Now you want to know what's going to happen. So I think Stranger is one that I would say is a good starting point. I also think, I mean, from the romance lot, because I do think a lot of us I mean, at least for me, I haven't seen good rom-coms like this in ages. Like K-dramas do romance so well, and it seems so counterintuitive given all the things that we otherwise would think are staples for romance are just not present. Like these are technically PG-15, but they are so absolutely sexless that you wouldn't imagine that it can feel romantic, and yet they are wildly romantic, I think actually a really good introductory K-drama for beginners in romance is Crash Landing on You. I mean, and I think particularly for India, because Crash Landing on You is the Indo-Pak romance that we deserved and we did not get. It is.
We got Border. What about
we got Veer Zara.
Come on.
This is what Veer Zara
You
wanted
forget
to be.
In Border that he keeps running back and forth the Thar Desert. Okay. It's like Run On meets Crash Landing.
So Crash Landing, I think it's it was also made at a time when North Korean and South Korean relations had kind of thawed just a little bit, and there was a little bit of exchange between these two countries, which are violently separated otherwise. But it really gets that sense of finding common ground when everything is going to hell. And I think it also has by far my favorite scene of all time, which is the whirlwind, the typhoon, whatever it is. There's a typhoon or a cyclone, something like that, just erupts right over the DMZ, right? Right over the border. And helpfully, you see one big
like the clouds in
past,
Lagan. What? You see, helpfully, you see what?
a single pig
Oh, shut up.
one past. Not joking. There's you sitting in her like paragliding thing, and there's one pig. No, there are all of these. That's the only point that is entirely ridiculous in that show. Like the freak of nature that gets it to land in North Korea. But other than that, it's just such a wonderful romance. You know, it's the kind of hero that you want to see. It's the kind of heroine you want to see. It's got, it actually has one passable kiss, probably because the couple were actually falling in love at that point of time. It's got an amazing range of minor characters. The secondary love story and the whole North Korea plot is so well done without caricaturizing or villainizing people. It's a masterclass, I think, in writing, but it's also a truly satisfying romance. It's also one of the most popular films that K-dramas that have ever been made. So chances are, if anyone's even remotely interested, they've already seen it. But
No, I was just happy to see what's her name? Sonia Jin, right?
Sonia Jin, yeah.
Yeah, I was just happy to see Sonia Jin being happy because I had seen her in what is that damn Something in the Rain.
Oh God,
the most tortured romance in the history of. Basically, I have sworn that I will not watch any more shows made by that man, the Something in the Rain man. It's just it's like, I mean, my personal feeling is that Anpan Sok does not like women, is my personal theory. Because in every show, the women are tortured and the man who's just stunningly good looking is the moral center and everything else is like corrupt and beyond anything. So basically, I guess the question that the slightly more dangerous, less dangerous question that I want to ask is, who's your Korean oppa?
I see, now this just keeps changing because it will
From month to
really
month.
it'll depend on what I'm watching right at that point.
So who's your current oppa?
So right now I'm in the middle of watching The King's Affection, and Ron is not my oppa because he's just the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Don't put on that lipsticks.
Just cannot. He's
just
so
the worst
bad. But I think one of the people who has been my favorite since I saw him in Stranger is Cho Sung-woo, and I will watch a lot of crap just to see Cho Sung-woo. He's an extraordinarily good actor. In terms of absolute prettiness, Chow Nu, who's an idol turned actor and a pretty bad actor, to be fair, but what a face. Sorry. So Chow Nu, with his extraordinarily pretty face, is very much one of the boys that I was like, now I'm going to watch everything you've ever done. And he's a very bad actor, so that was a bad call.
As my friend says, everything.
But he did, to his credit, he did what I think is one of the best fusion saguks ever made, which is Rookie Historian Guhaerang, which all saguks fall flat next to that one. Like
it's lovely. It's
lovely. I love that particular one. So those two, obviously Gong Yu, how can you not? He's too lovely, even though his face looks a little bit like, someone smooshed it between a sandwich toaster, even despite that. Mostly.
I think in the end of Kim Sang-soon, my name is Kim Sang-soon, I think she says to Yoon Bin, I think one of the last few minutes of the show, I want to eat you bit by bit, she sais. And
Yeah. And who do you want to eat bit by bit? I want to know, Miss Susan.
I had a Gong Yu phase in which I looked him up a lot on YouTube and watched him laughing in talk shows and all that. But I think my continued favorite is Jun Suk, and I think like I don't know. I feel like I watched this show called Don't Dare to Dream or Jealousy Incarnated. Korean dramas come with like 5 different names. It's very confusing. Like one show is called Just Between Lovers, but it's also called Rain or Shine. I mean, how you're supposed to keep track, I don't know. But anyway, this particular show, which is called Don't Dare to Dream, it is, let's just say it's the Jhoom Barabar Jhoom of, or close to the Jhoom Barabar Jhoom of K-drama. I think the actual Jhoom Barabar Jhoom of K-drama is possibly Walk of Love. Okay, which even hardcore people are like, pata nahi kya ho raha hai is walk ke andar. Okay, but yeah, so Jo Jun Suk, I find him extremely compelling tiny person. Just I watch the show and I just feel like, oh, I have left planet for a little while.
Bit by bit. This is good. This is good. I approve of these choices.
I suppose we could talk about K-drama all week, but we should.
Yeah, and we do. But we should possibly do other things, like watch the rest of the episodes that are waiting to get watched.
What are you watching right now? What are you watching?
I've just started watching Inspector Coup.
Is it good?
It's super fun so far. I mean, I've forgotten the name of the actress, but she's so good. And again, one of these, very, very feisty and very unusual heroines,
She's
particularly within the K-drama.
In this show, right?
Complete crack. Like the first time you see her, there's like a cockroach running through her stuff and her hair is all over the place. And she has this, that soft focus thing that they do for romances.
Right.
Staring at what looks like a man, but it's actually the beer. It's the beer that she's eyeing.
Right.
So she's quite lovely. And it's really good. I'm about 5 episodes in, and it's very good.
Usually they don't do crack heroines like that. No, like they don't do like 30 Rock kind of heroines, right? Because they usually do. I mean, they might have difficulties in life, but they're all very composed. And,
yeah.
Right? Like it's all conforming, including the hair.
Yeah, right. Everything is, it used to be very to form,
Right.
And I think in the last 4-5 years, that's sort of been breaking out little by little. It's gone from having quirks in personality to dressing slightly differently.
Right.
Like one of the cutest rom-coms that I saw was Into the Ring, which is about a young woman politician.
Yeah. It's nice.
It's really sweet.
I keep meaning to watch that one. So you're saying Inspector Coup, and the other one you recommended is what was the Sita Gita one?
Wonder Woman.
Right.
Lee Han-yi, who's really great as well.
Dark the Fire. The greatest movie title known to Bollywood.
Korean titles are just like, for instance, Stranger is also Forest of Secrets.
Of course.
Which gets called Secret Forest. Which gets called Secret Forest.
Yeah, Goblin, Guardian.
Lonely Guardian, Great and Lonely God.
What lonely God?
I was like,
please continue.
Come, let me make you feel less lonely. If only I did not, I cannot stand Kim Un-suk. This is the only problem. Her storytelling just raises all my hackles because it's so traditional and it's so like, oh, here's an alpha, let us worship him. I can't. See, now, this is Korean. I was not going on saying Aish before this. Huh?
Okay, last question. Aish or
Aigo
or Omo? Which one is yours?
Aigo, Aish, those are the two I end up using. I know Omo is yours, right?
Omo is mine. I'm always all about the Omo. Omo for the FOMO. Wait, I will say bye-bye or...
Yes.
What do
no, we should be saying Anyo.
Anyo, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Anyo, everyone at BIC also, Anyo.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for staying on for the full conversation. If you like what we do, please share it with your friends and family. You can also leave us a review or rating on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. The crew that makes these podcasts possible is Gaurav Krishna on sound supervision and production, with support from S. Saranaraj and Raghavendra Tenkaila. Artwork and design is by Chandni Venkataraman of Crisscross Design Studio. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on your favorite podcast platform. It can also be accessed on our website, bangaloreinternationalcentre.org. Do follow us on Instagram for updates on all our programming. This is Lekha Naidu signing off on behalf of everyone at BIC.